Welcome, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Bri? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being my guest today. I really appreciate you agreeing to do this interview. It's going to be exciting.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So, to get started, can you share with our listeners who you are both personally and professionally?
Ooh, wow. Okay. Like I know the question's coming, but then I'm like, ooh,
I know once
who
you
am
get with
I?
it. Right.
Personally, I'm me. I just like being me as much as possible, whatever that means in the moment. And I'm a teacher mostly, and a partner and a friend, and I'm pretty loyal and trustworthy. And
Okay.
so there you go with that.
Okay.
I have a PhD in biology and I teach yoga. And I just started an online yoga platform called the Soul Collective.
Hmm.
And that's my baby right now that I'm hatching.
Okay.
And I mean, it's hatched, but now it's growing. It's in diapers, and we're hoping it starts walking soon and
Right.
can start
Okay.
changing itself.
Right. Right. No, I understand that. Well, I've got a little confession, right? So for years, I've talked a really good game. And I've actually declared that I'm going to make yoga instrumental in my life. I'm going to meditate daily, maybe yoga once a week. And it hasn't happened. I dabble here and there. So for someone like me, what do you say to them? Like how important is yoga in someone's life, or how important can it be, both yoga and meditation?
So the first thing I would say is good for you for every moment that you took to try, and when you were trying, you were doing it, right?
Hmm.
That's the
Hmm.
first thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is yoga includes meditation. It's one of my we always say yoga and meditation, and I wish people would start saying yoga and know that that includes meditation.
Well,
So
that's good information because I didn't realize that.
well, and what it does is it takes something off your list. You don't have
Hmm.
to do yoga and meditate. Just do some yoga.
Okay.
So mentally take something off your list. And
Right.
then the next thing I would say is if it's really something you want to incorporate in your life, then do it right when you get out of bed. And I have this little sequence that I tell people get out of bed and you do they're called sun breaths. You breathe in, lift your arms up and breathe out and fold forward and breathe in and lift a little bit up and then fold back over your legs.
Hmm.
Maybe do a little cat cow and then sit on the edge of your bed and count maybe 3 to 15 rounds of your breath without losing track of your breath, right? So that your mind doesn't sort of slip off of your breath.
Okay.
That for 3 to 15 rounds and then get up and go to the bathroom and do all the stuff you do.
So that's
Start
interesting
listening.
because I think many of us wake up and then we do this. You reach for your phone, you start checking to see, any activity on social media, what emails have you received that you need to react to early. And I will say, for me, I've learned, or at least I've really tried to put into practice as much as I can throughout this last year to not do that, right? So my phone is always near me, but I try to make it a point to look at daily affirmations and,
Perfect.
just try not to open up any social media platforms at all, listen to a meditative podcast of some sort. But for many other people, that they haven't gotten there yet, at least some of the women that I speak to. So how would you convince that woman, and you shouldn't even have to, be persuasive at all, but for that woman, what would you say to her to get her to change her habits to impact her life in a better way?
In a positive way, yeah, in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And you said two things that are just you already answered it because the first thing is you said things that I need to react to,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our reaction time decreases when we take a minute to just let our minds wake up to the day and not be tuned in to the things that create us to react, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we can just kind of center ourselves, just look at our breath for a few moments before we pick up that phone. Then when we pick up the phone or look at the computer screen, we see it with a little more clarity and almost, I want to say, detachment. So we respond and we use less of our energy and we feel less drained from those reactions. And we're in a responsive mode.
Okay.
So
let me ask you this. So how do you start your day? So I know that you have an online course, right? Or class, excuse me, at 6:35. And I've been saying, I'm going to take this class. I cannot get up and be alert to do this. So I'm just curious, in order for you to prepare for that 6:35 class, like how does your day begin?
Well, so the 6:35 class only happens once a week.
Okay.
First of all,
I still have to work my way up to that, but
okay. Second of all, I started that at least 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I started it with the intention that you can do this in your pajamas. You don't need makeup. You don't need to do anything. You just need to get up and sit down and meditate. And that's basically my premise. So I really wake up and I switched the time from 6:30 to 6:35 because I realized like I could never get there at 6:30. I
was wondering, that's a little odd. 6:35.
It's like, but I'm always on time for 6:35. But that 6:30 was just, I was always late. So it was annoying. I don't like being late. So I was like, I'm going to change the time. And I did. And I'm there at 6:35. And I wake up with enough time to go to the bathroom, brush my teeth, and make a cup of coffee, turn on the YouTube thing, set up all that stuff, the technical stuff, which now I can practically do in my sleep. Right. And I'm in my pajamas. I'm not wearing makeup. Sometimes I put my eye patch that I sleep in. Sometimes I put that on my forehead just to like, if my hair's really bad, so that it, like the hair doesn't go bad.
Are you conducting the class that way?
Yeah, with the eye patch on my forehead.
That's hilarious.
Because you know what? You guys are all you look at me for the first 5-10 minutes, and then I'm usually saying something comical because it's 6:35 in the morning.
Right.
And then, you guys, your eyes are closed.
Right. Yeah, that's
so what do you care what I look like?
That's true. Well, that's good because it puts everyone else at ease, right?
Yeah.
And it makes them think, well, if you can do that, then whatever they're doing where they're on camera, because it's YouTube, so they're not on camera, obviously, but if they're doing anything else on camera, maybe they can take that same approach and reduce the stress, right? If we're not so focused on how we look at every moment,
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what is it about yoga that helps put people in a peaceful place?
It's a few things, but I think the main thing is this sort of reconnection, right? Because when we live in the world as we need to, our senses are all drawn out into the world, right? And we're doing it both for survival, like literally from the evolutionary standpoint of survival, but we're also doing it, that survival now is like on steroids, right? Because it's computers and technology and constant meetings and people and work and family and school and whatever, all the things we're jumbling, right? We're not just gathering food and cooking it. It's like we're doing a lot more.
Right.
And so all the senses that we use to survive, right, are dispersed, and we get dispersed, and yoga brings us back in, right? It reconnects us to our physical body, to our how we're feeling energetically, to the movement of our breath, and to see how much noise is happening in our minds. And when we're allowed to have that moment to reconnect with ourselves and to tap into what we're feeling and to be okay with that, it just gives us that, there's a serenity to that, a knowing to that someone becomes unshakable. It's mine. I know that's for me.
Right. Right.
And I think that's a lot of where that comes from.
Well, the few times that I have engaged in yoga, I've enjoyed it, right? So I'm always amazed at how it challenges your body physically, right? But even from, and I'm going to separate, I know what you said, what I've learned
No,
here,
it's okay. It's okay.
but I'm going to separate meditation for a moment, because when I do meditation sessions that are just like 10, 15 minutes, I feel like it takes time to get rid of the noise in my head. You know what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
it's like you have to retrain yourself to be mindful, I guess, right? And then just be very focused within. And I think it's a good thing, but I've had some great creative ideas come out of a meditative session or even a yoga session, but there's still noise there. Like I've never gotten to a place where I can just be completely focused on the moment. So for all those women out there who have had similar experiences to me, like what advice can you give them to figure out how to be more mindful or be more in the moment? Or does it just come with time and training?
Yeah. Even if you experience it for a split second, it's a little bit addictive, I have to say, when you get into that slipstream of being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were able to completely calm your mind and find that empty, clear, pure conscious state, Bri, I would be interviewing you.
Okay, good. So in other words, it's common, and I'm not alone, and I'm not nuts.
Oh my God. Good Lord. And I mean, really, I would be like, oh, look, I'm talking to the Dalai Lama. Amazing.
Oh gosh.
But I think that what I would say is, and what I do say is that what is something that you enjoy so much, like when you're cooking or your, I don't know, some hobby that you do, or something that maybe you run, or you, I don't know, some people like to play tennis, they're into sports,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you are one of these people that likes to take long walks on the beach or in the woods. And there's this moment when you're just completely absorbed by what you're doing, or you're working on a research for somebody you're going to interview, and the time just, it disappears. You suddenly, the next thing you know, it's 3 hours later and you don't know where the time went. Right. That's what happens. That's that's an analogous thing to meditation. You have the capacity to do it. And when you meditate and just take a little slice of time to quiet the mind, you're letting that experience expand into all aspects of your life. So that experience that you had where the time went away and you didn't know what happened to the time, you're training your brain to let that happen in more moments of your life. And then eventually it just kind of starts to bleed into those moments where you're like, okay, I'm here now. And then you catch yourself, oh, I'm cutting this tomato, but I'm thinking about, I've got to deposit that check and make sure that I go to the grocery store and And then you go, oh, come on, get back to the tomato. Look at this red, juicy tomato.
Right. So it sounds as though there are so different forms of meditation. So it just depends on how you accept it, right? So as you were talking, I was thinking about, what do I like to do? Because I don't have a hobby, which I need. So I can stop thinking about stuff all the time and just do something for fun, right? No business related items to address.
That's tough for us, though.
It is.
Oh my God.
It really is. And I started talking, I think in one of my earlier podcasts, I talked about taking up knitting, and I need to do, or crocheting, whatever, same thing to me. But I think I want to try that. And that may be something that helps put me in a different place. But for now, I try to go out and power walk. And I don't do it regularly, but when I do it, I listen to podcasts, I listen to music or whatever, and it just makes me think. I just breathe in the fresh air. And I never really looked at it as a form of meditation. But based on your description, it is. It's like finding that peaceful place for you
You're finding that rhythm.
Right.
Yeah. And what I would suggest to you, if you do like to go out and do your power walks and you're listening to your podcasts or your music, I would take 3 to 5 minutes of that power walk without the headset, without the sound, but without, blocking out sound, but walking wherever you are, not looking at the phone, and do just 3 to 5 minutes and feel what's happening in your body, feeling your breath, the world around you, and your mind's going to go, but, oh, I should be doing this. And I need to, it's just, no, all I'm doing is walking. I'm walking and I'm breathing and I'm taking in the sights and sounds, and I'm just here. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think yoga can make someone a better person?
What?
Do you think yoga can make someone a better, or help make someone a better person?
Absolutely not. People are already better. They're fantastic.
Oh, okay.
People are already fantastic.
Well, you started with absolutely not. I didn't know where you were going.
No, people are already better. People don't need to be better. People are already fantastic. That I think is one of the biggest problems in our society right now, is that everybody thinks they're not enough and that they need to be more, and that they or somebody's telling them they need to do more or be more, or that they're not enough, and they're listening to it. You're already fantastic. Yoga won't make you better. It's just going to show you how freaking fantastic you are.
I need you in my ear every morning. I used to wake up and hear that every morning.
Wake up and tell yourself. It's hard though. It's hard. I get really annoyed with these yoga teachers that are like, love yourself. You need to give yourself love. Love yourself. It's like, to truly, truly love yourself is really, really hard. That is not an easy task.
I can agree, because I think for many, including me, I'm critical of myself, right? So I could accomplish something good, but then immediately afterwards I'm going, darn, but I should have done it this way. I should have said it this way. And then I try to stop that noise, but again, it's being mindful that I'm doing it, right? And trying to stop that. But
that's the first
is powerful.
And that's the first step. And that's one of the things, the benefits of meditation is you start to hear that noise. And I didn't want to put like, the noise is self-criticism, but typically that's what the noise is. There's this little voice in the back of our minds that's telling us what we're doing wrong and how we could have done it. And we should have done it this way. And if we can't listen to that voice and say, hey, you know what? You're wrong. I'm awesome. Right? We have to be able to hear it first before we can say, stop. This is me. I'm awesome. And I've got this.
But that takes training too.
Yeah. That's the meditation does. That's it trains you. Yeah.
And what's funny is, because it's not funny. I always say that. It's not funny, literally. But I make sure that with my daughter, I heard this from a talk show host. She's actually an attorney turned talk show host years ago. And she talked about how she doesn't let the criticism of others affect her. And she's very self-confident because when she was growing up, her father on a daily basis told her how great she was. So when I had my daughter, I was like, wow, I like that approach. So I do some form of that every day to try to say something positive to her about her, so that she has that. And even with that, there's still some insecurities.
There still is. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what she accomplishes in school and how well she's doing, there's still that thing. So I don't know if it's gender-based or what, but I didn't really experience that with my son. I don't know.
Bombarded.
All the outside sources, you mean?
Yeah, that's that media, stuff we have to like let go of and come back in and find that center and hear her mom going, I'm great. I'm awesome.
Right.
Fantastic. Right. And then hearing it yourself. Yeah. It might be gender-based too. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Right. Yeah, that's a different discussion.
That's another conversation.
I know. We could talk about that on its own.
I am going to plug your daughter, though. Is this the one that writes for Anti-Racism Daily?
Yes.
I love that email.
Oh, I know. It's pretty cool, right?
It's so good.
It makes you really think about some things you haven't thought about before.
Yeah. And it gives you...
What
were you saying?
I was saying, just to see like some of these young adults, just to see their line of thinking,
Yeah.
and for some of them how progressive they are already. I'm amazed at that. So yeah,
It's pretty
for
cool.
them is pretty exciting. Yeah. So so I was looking on your site recently, and I saw a video about restorative yoga at bedtime.
Oh yeah, we just
Like,
added the restorative the chair and bed yoga. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, now you've got my attention even more so, because I don't think I've really talked to anyone who, really appreciates yoga but does it at night. But I could see the benefits to it. So can you share with people, what your line of thinking is around creating that program and or that service, and what the benefit is, and why they should even
Absolutely.
consider it?
100%. And I'll tell you, I am a reformed restorative yogi because I could not stand restorative yoga before.
Hmm.
I was just, I would get into a restorative yoga class and I would lay there well, I mean, if anyone sees this video, they're going to be like, look at that girl. She's just moving all the time. But I would get into these restorative postures and just be like, how long do I have to be here? Oh my God. 5 minutes? Jeez, what are we going to switch? This is ridiculous. Like, breathe. I'm breathing. Oh my God. And
Right.
jiggling and uncomfortable.
Well, wait, can you just tell people what restorative yoga is?
Restorative yoga is yoga that uses props to hold your body in positions for extended periods of time. Mm-hmm. So where you might lay down on your back flat on the floor for what we call shavasana or corpse pose, we would take a bolster and place it underneath your knees, behind your knees, maybe underneath your heels, maybe a little bolster at the curve of your neck, and a little slight pad under your knee, and maybe some eye patch over your eyes, a pillow. And it just kind of takes the comfort level up a notch so that the body feels really supported and it can release any places where you're holding. Okay. So if you're sitting right now with your legs crossed, or even with your feet on the floor, you're holding your inner thigh muscles to keep the knees together, or to cross your legs, right? So if we then put a strap around your legs, then you would release into that strap and you wouldn't use those inner thigh muscles to hold the legs together.
I'm gonna do that right now, because I was sitting exactly as you described, with my legs crossed and holding my thighs together. Yeah. So then your body's more relaxed.
So you just take your hands down and like hold the legs and like feel your inner thighs relax a little bit. Then you can let go and let the legs flop open. And then you can start to feel a little bit of a shake as you let the legs flop open. And you start to notice like, oh, wow, they're still holding, right? So if you imagine you're laying on your back and you hold, there's something to support the legs, right? Then those little last bit of muscles that are holding will let go. So you actually get a better release in the muscle tissue with this type of stretch. I'm putting air quotes on that for the people that are just listening. The stretch, there's a little bit of more of a let go, and it's because of the physiology of the muscles. It's actually a physiological holding of the tissue of the muscles that is allowed to then let go because it's supported.
All right.
So it's just a great way to really release the chemicals in our body that build up in our body because of stress. One of them most well known is cortisol, and we need to process that and get it out of our body so that we leave this fight or flight reaction in our body, in our nervous system, and turn into rest and digest. So you can see where I'm going. If you do this at night, right, it really winds your body down. Right. And some people get afraid to do restorative yoga at like 5 or 6 or 4 or whatever, because they're, I'm not going to be able to sleep later. But what happens is you systematically reduce tensions and release tensions in your body. And that allows you to get a better night's sleep.
I could see that. I could clearly see that. So you say people, don't know if doing it anywhere from 4 to 6 works. But I don't know. When I saw that, the first thing I was thinking was, oh, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. Because at the end of the day, I mean, first of all, in my household, we go to bed extremely late. It's so ridiculous. And now with this pandemic, you just forget it. I don't even sleep much, but it's not
well,
good.
that's part of the problem, and this will help you sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try it because I was curious, but I'm curious about it. But I could see how if you're doing this, say shortly before bed, I can completely see how that would put your body physically in a peaceful, calming, relaxing state, so that it will allow you to sleep better. I could completely see that.
Yeah.
So do you suggest doing this at any particular time, or is it just depending on the individual?
Well, it's interesting. So I personally love doing restorative in the late afternoon, or, you know, if I've still have some more work to do, or I like to do it around 8 or so at night. But I just like, you know, I would rather read a book or maybe watch a TV show or a movie with my soul man. And so I was like, oh, this is interfering with what I want to do. And so then I learned more about it. And my teacher was like, no. It's like a bank account. It's like a savings account. You are basically building up savings and reserve of restoration in your body. So you can do it when it's convenient for you.
Okay.
And I say the same thing about meditation too, which is not a good, like, it's kind of against the grain. Typically people will say, oh, you should meditate in the morning, or you should meditate only at night, or one end of the day or the other, or both. And then there's lengths of time. And I really feel like I had a meditation student who was coming to me for several weeks, and he was sort of hemming and hawing at the beginning of one of his sessions. And I was like, what's going on? Like, tell me what's going on. And he's like, well, it's really interfering with my morning routine. And I said, well, tell me about your morning routine. He's like, well, I get up and I go to the bathroom, and then I make my coffee, and then I read the newspaper, and then I'll meditate. And I said, well, of course, that sounds great. He goes, oh, well, I thought I had to meditate before I did all that, and it was really messing up my morning. I didn't like it. And I was like, no. I want you to like this. It's got to be part of something you enjoy.
So it brought on more stress for him versus alleviating stress.
Exactly.
So funny. I think a lot of people feel that way though. I don't think he's alone. I mean, because even when I think about meditation, I'm always thinking, oh, it's got to be first thing in the morning. And oh, if I didn't do it first thing, I'm not going to probably do it at 11 because of, and I start giving myself reasons for not doing it. Right. So I think that would be helpful for a lot of people, where even though you kind of know you can do it whenever you want, it's like you just kind of gave people.
You could do it right now if you wanted to.
I know, right?
No, I'm serious.
Oh, literally?
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you do?
Well, I'll have you get comfortable in your seat, sit up tall.
Okay, so listen up, people, so you can follow along.
They can follow along, and if they're sitting on the subway, if you're driving, don't do this.
Well, if you're driving, I would love to see how this would work.
If you're driving, do not do this unless you're in a Google test car.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Okay. So sit up nice and tall, and then close your eyes. And let your hands rest on your thighs or your knees. And you might still have a little bit of a smile on your face because I'm having such a good time. I'm smiling.
So am I.
And that smile is like part of the greatest ways to let go of your thoughts and get out of your head. So take a deep breath in and out. And feel the tingle of that smile start to release as your face relaxes a little more. And as you breathe in, notice how your chest rises and your rib cage lifts. Maybe your stomach expands a little bit. And as you breathe out, notice the pairing, the rib cage dropping, the abdomen collapsing a little bit in. And just watch the physical movement of your breath in and out. And as you allow your mind to get wrapped up in your breath, notice how your forehead feels like it's smoothing out. And the muscles and tissues around your eyes relax. And the cadence of your breath steadies. And you might hear sounds or noises around you, but there's this nice, steady rhythm of your breath as an accompaniment to all of it. Just one more round of breath. And the next time you happen to be breathing out, drop your chin towards your chest. Blink your eyes open, looking at your lap or your desk. And then lift your gaze back up into your space.
Time to go to sleep now. Thank you for the interview. I'm done. You know what, though? First of all, thank you for that. I think our listeners, I'm pretty sure they'll do it, right? Even for 2-3 minutes, like I could see how that would just make such a difference. You know, if you're having a bad moment or a stressful moment for whatever reason, yeah, it doesn't have to be lengthy.
No.
It could be this simple, but yet simple. Very impactful.
Yeah, just close your eyes, sit up tall, and breathe. Let your mind focus on your breath.
You've completely simplified the whole process. Wow. I think I love it. I love it. I really believe, especially after this conversation, I'm going to do more, right? So I'm going to check out your class.
Check out the classes. You can check them out on YouTube or go to the Soul Collective.
Right, exactly.
And what's great too is that, you know, you asked the question about the time. We do have these classes. They're all recorded. And so you have access to this great video on demand library, and you can make some favorites and that kind of stuff.
Excellent. So yoga classes on demand.
Yeah.
So, and I know yoga and meditation are the same, but do you also have meditation classes separate of yoga classes?
Yes. Yes. So we have the physical, the asana, the yoga classes, and we have the meditation classes. And then I have a class that I love to teach called Move and Meditate. So you get a little bit of movement before you have to sit down. My mom calls that the wiggle time. Like, give yourself some wiggle time so we can sit still.
Right. Oh, I'm sure many people need that.
Yeah.
You can't just jump right into it. It's like, give me a moment. I've got to get it all out.
Be still.
Out. Like being in school, because you get in class, you got to, you know, be still and be ready. So you have mentioned different types of yoga throughout this conversation. How many different styles or types of yoga are there?
Oh, good gravy.
Because I always hear, I can't even pretend I know the lingo, but I know that there are so many different types, but I have no idea.
Right. So the older types, if you will, would be, you know, Hatha, the tradition of Iyengar, who is a teacher, Ashtanga, Vinyasa. These are all sort of what I would think of more as the root sort of types of yoga. But now you can take, you can do like candlelight yoga, you can do goat yoga, you can do hip hop yoga.
I'm not doing goat yoga. I've seen clips of that.
I'm like, what? I do not want a goat climbing all over me.
Right, exactly.
And there's just like people have they have reinvented the wheel so many times. I'm pretty sure that we could drive on rocks if we needed to. Okay. Like it's wild.
But do you stick to the more traditional types of yoga?
I do. I feel more traditional. I do incorporate a little bit more of the knowledge that I have from sort of physical training and anatomy and so forth, so that there's a little bit more of a balance in the musculature that as you use it, instead of this, there's a lot of repetition in yoga. And so I like to sort of engage the different chains of muscles in the body so that you don't get too much imbalance. And I always say you shouldn't be doing only one thing, right? I like a good varietal.
No, I see. So I've got a question for you. So here, I'm going to read from my little sheet here because I copied and pasted, right? So I read, Rebecca guides her students towards physical ease in their bodies while helping them find clarity, peace of mind, and their boundless spiritual potential. And her teaching style will guide you towards the wisdom and intelligence you have inside. There you'll find your inner teacher and ultimately your best life. And that resonated so much with me because I think many people, or some, I don't know, I'll speak for myself. When I think about working towards some sort of improvement for myself, I don't know, I always think about yoga and meditation as well that can help me do just that. So for you, my question about this is, how can yoga and meditation help people or help your students find their wisdom and intelligence on different levels?
Right. That's a fantastic question. And I think I just rewrote some of that bio because I was like, this sounds a little too unattainable. But the truth is it's totally obtainable. And the reason it helps is, like I was saying before, what yoga is, that bringing everything back into your center, right? So that you move with more clarity and discernment, right? So when you're at the crossroads of any decision, you're in a place of clarity and discernment to know the best decision to make for yourself and your life, right? And not only that, but sometimes you're not at a crossroads, you're at an expansion in the path, right? And you might really have blinders on because you're set on a goal and you find that you're forcing yourself down this path. And the path is expanding. And what the practice of yoga and meditation does, by centering, by finding that clarity, by cutting down the noise, allows you to see that sort of unfoldment of that expansion of that path, so that if it's a little easier to move to the right or take it over to the left or stay in the center, you find this path of least resistance. And I really, when you think about the times in your life when everything kind of fell into place, right? You weren't struggling for it. You weren't fighting for it tooth and nail. It wasn't that hard. It just kind of presented itself. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about my soul man. I asked the universe for him and he was presented to me on a silver platter. I almost turned him down. Sent him back to the kitchen. But he was like, literally, like, I wrote down this description of this person that I wanted to meet and I met him. And I'm not saying that you manifest everything that happens in your life, but this power of your mind really starts to be honed and starts to be used. And I don't mean used like an instrument, but utilized. You have access to it. You can tap into it. And it just makes things easier.
Right.
Makes things a little bit easier.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I'm thinking, so through yoga meditation often comes clarity, right? And that could lead to a declaration of so many different things on a personal level or professional level. And one of which could be letting go, right? So I think for some, especially the women who I speak to, and I mentioned it to you before, these are women who spent a lifetime working on a career, building a business, and in many cases, raising a family and neglecting their own needs because they made sacrifices for the greater good of someone else, right? And for the most part, many women are okay with that because it's for your kids, it's for your family. But then you get to a point when you're saying, it's not enough, I want more. But as you're mentioning, sometimes you know what you want, but you're kind of fighting that thing, right? Or you say you want something, but it's not happening for you, which kind of means that it's not meant for you. I would guess, like if you have to fight so hard and it's just not appearing. So I would like you to share, because I'm going to shift this a little bit, your personal journey, because you mentioned before you have a PhD in evolution and cell biology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had really established a career as a researcher and scientist.
And a teacher, yeah.
And a teacher.
Yeah.
So how did you get to this point? What was your transition? Because I know during that time you also practiced yoga, but what was your transition like to forego that and focus on your current business and its current model? And what was that journey like? Because I think it's also important to share with other women who struggle with letting go of something that maybe you did really well at, but it's not serving you at the time, at the moment. Yeah. It's okay, right? If you work like you did, years studying and preparing and developing this career, but knowing at what point it's time to let it go, to move on to that next phase. So can you share what your journey, your impressive journey?
I love it. I'm very humbled by the question, because I feel like the experience that I had, the parts of it that were just so easy, right? When I was finishing my master's and I was thinking about getting a PhD, and I was looking at the different places that I could apply to get my PhD. Mm-hmm. There was a group of students from UNC Chapel Hill that were down working in the laboratory with my major professor. And they were like, oh, if you're interested in this, you should apply to so-and-so's lab. She's doing exactly that. And it was like, oh, okay. So I wrote her an email and she wrote me back. And next thing I knew, I was getting accepted to UNC Chapel Hill. And everybody was kind of like, well, what'd you do? How'd you get into UNC Chapel Hill? I'm like, I just wrote an email. It wasn't that easy, but it really was that easy. And there were all these other schools that I was looking into and applying to. And it was just really, it seemed like a lot of work. And these kind of things, those things unfolded. But then, there was a lot of bumps along the way. And by the time I finished my PhD, which I had originally wanted to do so I could become a teacher without doing a lot of research, that sort of route, if you will, was no longer available to academics at any level of college. And so I had to sort of rethink what I was going to do. But I had made all these connections with these professors to do postdocs. And so I did interviews, and the path just kind of like opened, went one direction. It was my gut. If I'd listened to my gut, I shouldn't have gone there. I only stayed there for a year. I didn't know what I was going to do after that year. And I ran into another professor that I had previously interviewed with. He's like, you should come to my lab. I'm moving to the West Coast. I'll be right where you are. Oh, okay. Boom, there's that. And then this isn't, research isn't going to be my gig. What am I going to do? Oh, there's a job at Berkeley to teach. You can teach instead of do research. Oh, okay. And it just kind of like that. But as soon as I was trying to write a grant, which turns out I'm horrible at, and be this person that wasn't like what I had planned and really wasn't me either, it was like banging my head up against a wall. Right. And so there's this balance of like things opening up to you and being easier, and like fighting for what you think you want to be doing. Right. And eventually, when it came to the point of like, you can eke out this life in academia and then maybe go into non-traditional education, and sort of still hold the academic, I'm air quoting for your listeners, hold this academic sort of standard to yourself, or you can let go and see what else is available. And that let go part that you're talking about is like just, it was just a leap of faith into somebody was saying, you can do this if you want to, just try it out. And me being willing to try it out.
So you didn't experience a lot of angst before you?
Oh my God. It took me probably, let's see, I would say 4 years to extricate myself completely from academia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was holding on to that idea of, all these years of training and I have a PhD in biology. And what am I going to do with that? What am I going to do with it? You just did all this schooling and now you have a PhD. What are you going to do with it?
No, but it's real.
It's real. It's totally real. And I do with it all the time. I have a science background. I am a scientist. I have the ability to inquire and to research and to speak from factual basis. And if I don't know, and I know where to look, I know how to find information. And then I know how to disseminate that information so that people can learn it, that it's bite-sized, so you can chew on it and learn it yourself and have a light bulb go off over your head.
And I think that's something to note too. So even though you let go of the current, or at that time, the current form of what you were doing, you're still leveraging all that knowledge and experience that you had earned.
Exactly.
Right? So you're not completely letting it go. And it's not a waste. Because I know, especially for our parents, they're like, you've wasted all that knowledge and you've wasted all of that time and energy and money and whatever. And it's not. You can still leverage all of those experiences and use them for what you're working on today. And that applies to anybody.
Yeah.
But I think,
used to get annoyed because there was a period of trending news about all of us women who had these advanced degrees and were just being moms. And it was like, oh, you left this great career just to be a mom. And it was like, well, first of all, don't put just in front of that, and second of all, I had a choice. I finally effing had a choice to do what I wanted to do. I chose this career and I was able to get an education in that field and take this career. And I chose to leave it and have children. And it was a choice.
Right.
And prior to that, there was a whole lot of women before me that didn't have a choice.
Right.
And so
that is key. That's key.
So you have a choice. That's the main thing.
Right. And I think still to this day, when you choose to maybe make a lateral move, or however you define it in your life, so that you can prioritize your family, it's still frowned upon, kind of, or at least not frowned upon, but it's looked upon very negatively still.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. It's like, because I'm going to share some honesty. So at one point, when I first had my daughter, she's baby number 2. She's 17, but I still call her the baby. So baby number 2. And my kids are 5 years apart. And I used to wonder, after she was born, like, how am I going to raise these 2 kids? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. 1, 2, they're 5 years apart. So they're at different stages in their lives. Like, how am I going to do this? Got presented with an opportunity to consult with the company I had been an employee for, and kind of stepped out to do my own thing. And then maybe a couple of years later, I kind of inquired about, what if I kind of got back into the corporate game, because I was scared that I was no longer going to be seen as valuable. I had a great resume and I had made some good connections and blah, blah, blah. And then I spoke to a recruiter who I had worked with in the past, who loved me. She said, I can't represent you anymore. You're no longer marketable. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, because I've also run a business. It's not as though I just took a step back. And it was like, you were no longer seen as valuable because you took a couple of years away from the structured corporate environment. And I was so offended and just insulted. Like, so there's no credit for, you're not looking for anyone to pat you on the back, but no credit for putting your career to the side for a moment, taking care of your kids, and then anyway, starting a business. Nope, not here.
Not at all.
Not at all. So the reinvention had to start, right? So it's like, I had to figure out what I was going to do going forward. But how many kids do you have?
None.
None. It's so funny because I'm thinking, I didn't think Rebecca had kids when I just started because of this conversation.
Absolutely
so
zero.
So I was thinking, did I miss something before?
Of course, I have some students that would take issue with that. They're like, wait a minute, I'm your kid. It's like,
Yes.
well, at least I gave birth to you when you were 23.
Right. And many teachers do. I hear that. They embrace that. It's like, these students are like my kids. So
Yeah.
That's so funny. So, all right. So we talked about your academic background, letting go of things. So the way your business is structured today, in terms of being primarily a virtual model, did this come about because of the pandemic, or was it always your plan to head in the virtual direction?
So the pandemic actually fast forwarded the technology that I needed, that I had been trying to get in my mind. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to have this online yoga studio. And I started thinking about this about 5 years ago. And there were different sort of platforms and models and that kind of stuff, but they were all glitchy, if you will. And so it was kind of like a dream, and then my practice, teaching, and I do a Marma Point therapy and teaching meditation and yoga privates and teaching in studios and stuff like that. That all was really blossoming. And then my travel and yoga guide business, that was really blossoming. And so I kind of just had this like my own yoga studio idea on the back burner, but I never had a lot of time to dedicate to researching, because I've got to research it properly, the best platform to let this actually come to fruition. And I just kind of kept one hand on the pot to look at it, to make sure that it was, still simmering and like what's out there, what's available. And then the pandemic happened and I started having, a few more hours of the day to look at stuff and see what's available now, 2020. And then as I was forming it, all the platforms that I had looked up in the past started having all of the things I wanted to be able to have an online yoga studio. Be able to have somebody from another place teach for the same group. So I've got teachers in Canada and California and New York, and I'm looking to have teachers in Europe and so forth.
Wow.
So they'll be all over the globe, and you can sign up for their classes from one place and take their classes from there and have it accessible to you and affordable to everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like throughout your life, once you kind of declare that you want something, it seems to just happen, right? Like you don't have a lot of resistance there once you are clear about what you want. It's the other piece, right? When you know what you don't want, but you're still trying to hold on to it, that's where that resistance comes from.
It's true.
So listen and take heed, people.
You basically, Bri, you just basically defined one of the limbs, if you will, of yoga, the attachment, right? We want to practice non-attachment, and we get attached to the goal. We get attached to the outcome of the goal so much so that we can't let go of it and be open to getting there and something else happening.
Right. I mean, I'm like that ideal person. I'm stuck. There's something I know I need to let go of. I know it's time. I just can't. It's just taking me so long. It's like, I've been doing this for so many years. This is what I know, but it's not what I love, right? It's what I know, but not what I love.
And what we know, that's better the devil I know, right? That's an old saying. And it's the truth, because, one of my teachers brought this up, and I repeat it because it's just so fascinating to me. We are willing to, if somebody came to you and said, look, I have this medicine I can give you, one dose, right? It will take away that pain in your hip. It will make you sleep better at night. You won't have any problems with eating any of the foods that you like. You won't gain weight, and you will have a balanced life, and you'll breathe better. Everything will be great. Do you want it? And they'll raising your hand. You're raising your hand, right?
Yes, right.
But that person that's been stuck with that sore hip and the digestive issues and problems that they can complain about, and the restless nights that they can talk about, and all those things, and not being able to sleep, they look at you and go, I don't know. I'm not sure. because we cling to what we know, right? Rather than let go of it. And we have to work at letting go and releasing and being open to new
that
things.
is difficult.
It is not easy.
It really isn't. It isn't. So I love your model. I love, first of all, I'm a digital marketing strategist, so I love the virtual model, like well before 2020. And so you're sourcing people from around the globe, so you'll be able to reach and impact so many lives because of that. So please, when this pandemic is over, hopefully soon, at least soon enough where we can, resume some sort of normalcy.
Yeah.
Will you stay virtual completely, or will you have a hybrid business model where
I would like to have a hybrid. I would like to have a hybrid, and I would like it to be, I call them micro studios. So you could have you could see an idea where you have a micro studio in cities around the globe, and the teachers that are teaching for the Soul Collective and shareholders in the Soul Collective would be able to say, like, hey, I'm going to Frankfurt next week, and I was wondering if I could teach out of the micro studio there. Right? And the micro studio could also be sustainable because it's an online, everything's ready to go online. So say I have a friend in Frankfurt that's like the number one, what do they make? Frankfurters. Frankfurter maker. I don't know where I came up with Frankfurters. They're the best Frankfurter cooker in the world, and they have a Frankfurter cooking show, and they need a place to broadcast their show. And so it's in that micro studio that they do that, right?
Nice.
And so I can see how it will evolve into this this sort of network of people having access to being able to thrive in their business and in their teaching. Yeah. And then if you lived in Frankfurt and you wanted to take yoga with this teacher that you've only seen teach from their New York City apartment or micro studio in New York City, you want to be in front of them, you can sign up for the class and then go in and take it live. And then you would be part of that live broadcast.
I love that. That's clever. I love that. Oh, well, I definitely look forward to watching your growth. That's going to be amazing. So what about the lifestyle retreats? Because I know you used to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Since COVID, will you bring that back as well?
Oh, yes. That's something I'm really looking forward to. And I'm actually speaking to someone next week to rebook our Spain trip for May of 2022. And I'm rescheduling my Costa Rica trip that was for October. The third time. I'm going to wait one more year for the retreats and the travel. Because to be honest with you, Bri, I just like the thought of marketing travel right now and like saying, go to this sunny beach. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are dying and sick and unfortunate and impacted. And I just can't bring myself to do that. It makes me sick to my stomach even thinking about it. So I'm going to wait another year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard decision because, it's on one hand, you're like, this would be great. You can get away, really clear your mind of all this stuff that's so heavy on all of our hearts and on our minds. On the other hand, it brings other things with that. And I can only imagine you don't want the burden of having to worry about everyone's safety and all of that. So I completely understand. So for the yoga and meditation teacher who's built a life and business in this industry, what do you do for self-care separate of yoga and meditation?
Ooh, I take baths.
Oh, really? Do you know, I'm one of the few people that do not, I cannot. I don't know what it is. I don't have
It's definitely a personal preference for sure.
Yeah, but I've heard people like literally say to me, criticize me because they're like, what do you mean you can't take a bath? I'm like, I can't sit there too long.
Some people hate taking baths.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the truth. I love taking a bath. And yeah, I get to make sure the bathtub's all nice and scrubbed clean. And I mean, it's usually clean, but I like to clean it right before my bath. There's like, it's like a weird thing of me, I guess. And then I like set up a nice hot bath and put some, am I allowed to say brands?
Sure. I mean, sure.
Well, Lush. Do you know that brand Lush?
Yes.
They make those bath bombs. And so I put that in there. Oh, with the Epsom salts and like makes your body feel good. So that's one of my like big self-care things. And then, then I really do love being outside. And so for the winter, we've been lucky in doing a lot of outdoor activities. And yeah, I love to sit outside and be in the sunshine. And if it's summer, I love reading books in the sun or floating on a raft, being any body of water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's a non-negotiable for you? Something that you will never compromise and something you have to protect to keep your sanity?
Non-negotiable. That is a really good question. I should probably ask my husband.
What do you think my sometimes, you know what? Sometimes it is better because to ask someone that's sort of objective, right?
I have to have my cup of coffee and my breakfast.
Okay.
Because I love my breakfast and my coffee, but I love my meditation practice. I really do. Even if it is just like a minute, like if I've got time for a minute, just sitting and breathing for a minute and quieting that mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think you just kind of showed us here, right? You just demonstrated earlier in this episode how you can literally take that minute and make it really useful for you. So for many women, life seems to always be just very stressful, right? There are always so many challenges that we're trying to navigate. So can you share with some of your wisdom with women who need to really reduce the stress in their lives? Because now many people are still home with spouses working from home, kids are home, like everybody's home. How do you, any advice that you can offer to help them figure out how to carve out some time to get to a peaceful place?
Yeah, that is, I mean, when you were saying for women, we have this capacity to juggle and to do so much and we're so good at doing so much, right? That I think people see it and they go, oh, well, she can handle it. And they just put more on the plate. And we're like, okay, thank you.
Right.
You know, and they're like falling over. And I guess the first thing I would say is before you say yes, take a breath, inhale, exhale, and then maybe say no.
Right.
And it's okay for you to say no. Right. And then I would also say, like, if you can't literally, like, I have one girlfriend that she put, I hope she doesn't get in trouble for this. She puts me on her schedule as a doctor's appointment because I have a PhD.
Well,
so she gets coffee with me once a week for half an hour. We have coffee. It's our time.
Great. I think that's great.
And her staff sees it as a doctor's appointment. She said, I think they think I'm seeing a shrink. I'm like, who cares? Like,
I'm going to Dr. Soule.
Dr. Soule.
Right.
And she gets her half hour. She gets her time.
That's important though. I think that's great to schedule what you need.
Yeah.
Why not? You know?
But then we also have the women in our friends and circles that are probably listening to this going, I can barely get through this entire episode without this one pulling on my leg, this one asking what's for dinner, this one saying, be quiet, I'm on a Zoom call. And I haven't even gotten to my work yet. And I'm doing all this other stuff.
It's real.
To those women, I would literally say, go in the bathroom and shut the door
Yes.
At the door, and
Oh my gosh.
don't answer the phone, and don't answer the knock on the door.
Right.
Just pretend you're not there. Just pretend you're not there, because you
That
know
is
what?
so
You
funny.
deserve 5 minutes.
Right. You know what? We laugh, but that is so true. And I actually do this. And I have friends that I'm speaking to, and we're talking like this. I'm like, well, where are you? I'm in my closet. I'm like, me too. And I have he just turned 23, a 23-year-old, a 17-year-old, and I still have to do this. I literally sometimes go into the garage to take calls, but they follow me.
They follow you to the garage.
They do.
They do.
So,
But I swear, Bri, like, I think we have this radar as kids, because like I can still go home.
yeah.
As soon as my mom gets on the phone, I need her.
Yes.
I need her. It's like this miracle. Like, she's on the phone. I need my mom right now.
Right now. And I joke about my son, but since he was a toddler, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter where. Like, if I'm in the bathroom, it's like he just has radar. Like, he knows I'm in the bathroom. It's like knock. Like, can I just have like 5 minutes? So I literally go in. I lock. I don't even lock. I just close my bedroom door. I lock myself in a master bathroom, and then I literally go into the closet on top of that.
You're like 3 doors back.
Just to have a moment, just to have a conversation without distractions. But it works for the most part. But sometimes, they don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
So we try to do our best.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, first, before we close out, let me have you tell people how they can connect with you. How can they engage with you? If they're interested in taking any online classes for yoga or meditation, just let them know.
I will say that I love hearing from people, and I get students email me all the time, and I'm actually the person who replies to join, JOIN, at thesoulcollective.com. And you can find all of our classes and more about our platform on The Soule Collective, and it's soul with an E, SOULE.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Soul Yoga, and my The Soule Collective is the other one. So at Soul Yoga and at The Soule Collective, and Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I think I'm also on LinkedIn.
Excellent. So you are
all the things. They're trying to get me to go on TikTok, Bri.
Please.
Are you? I mean, how many of these things do we have to do?
I know. No, this is a lot because I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. LinkedIn, not Twitter. I have an account on Twitter, but I can't. You have to be in the moment, and I just don't have the time and the space for that. So TikTok depends on how you use it. It could be for fun, right?
So funny.
It could be for fun, but I know social media, just kind of maneuvering through this space, it's a lot.
I kind of love scroll. I just looked at it because somebody said, you need to get on TikTok, and I'm like, really? Do I really need to get on TikTok? So I looked in, I made an account, and I signed up and started looking at TikTok. And I'm like, an hour later, TikTok. Yes. Oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think I'm fascinated with the couples that do stuff on there.
Yeah.
There are some funny couples.
Yeah, people are very creative. I've seen all the videos I've seen, it's just, they lock you in, right? Where you're just,
they do,
because whether they're funny or you're just
creative
with how they have, right? You're impressed with their creativity. Yeah, you can easily get stuck in that. And for me, I started on Clubhouse recently.
Love Clubhouse.
Probably within the last month or so.
Yeah.
And I do really like it, but sometimes you're like, oh my God, I've been on this call for an hour and a half. I've got things to do. I can't talk to you people for an hour and a half. There's way too much time, So just let you know, I will make sure that I put all of your social media handles as well as your email address.
Thank you.
In the listen notes so people can reach out to you directly. But Rebecca, this has been a great conversation. It's been so enlightening.
So much fun.
Yeah, it's been great. So
much fun.
Thank you so much for being open and sharing your story with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I'm sure that your story and your journey will definitely impact many. So thanks again for being so open. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. And we're staying in touch because you
of course
are doing yoga regularly.
I am. And I will do videos. I will prove it to people too. I'm going to prove it to people.
That's our next date. We'll do a yoga Instagram date.
Yes, we We should, yes, let's do
Yeah.
that. Seriously, we could do an IG live. We'll do that.
Let's do it.
I'm looking forward to it. All right, Rebecca,
Great.
from the, I was going to say Rebecca Soule, of course. Yes. So thank you, Rebecca Soule from the Soul Collective, for joining me here today. And I will be in touch so we can hold that in person, not in person, virtual live on Instagram session.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care.